Hi, I hope you all are doing well. I have my notes on my computer, so if I keep glancing back and forth, that's why. But in this debate, I believe that Harry Levant won just because his arguments fit the Toulmin model a lot better than Bill's did. Both speakers did know the topic very well, and they kept their conversation very respectful, and they had, I don't know, I think they did a good job debating each other, and it was very respectful and a good debate to watch. But I do believe that Harry had a better argument and did end up winning the debate and supported his evidence without just making claims. As we learned in class, the first part of the Toulmin model is a claim, and Harry did stay really consistent throughout his debate with his claims, and that his main point throughout the entire thing was that legalizing sports gambling has become a bad bet because it has turned into a public health issue, and that makes it so there needs to be more federal regulation. Every single statistic and example that he brought up that had to do with this claim, this first part of the model, was clear, and it connected back to the idea. I believe that Bill's claim was also clear, and he argued that sports betting isn't really as much of a public health crisis, and that most people in this world gamble very responsibly. But I don't think he developed that argument as well as Harry did in this debate. The second part of this model is grounds, or the evidence that is supporting the claim. And honestly, just as when watching this debate on YouTube, I believe that Harry stood out a lot in this section as well. He backed up his arguments really well, and he did support his claim by saying that the American Psychiatric Association does classify the gambling addiction as a real, genuine addiction. And he mentioned newer studies that also supported this as well, and legalized sports betting with things like higher bankruptcy and foreclosure rates. He also explained throughout the debate that gambling is completely different than what it was before, because of new concepts such as online betting through apps and micro betting. Bill, on the other hand, also used evidence too. He talked about how sports betting created jobs and has brought in tax revenue, and opening new apps has supported many people in bringing them jobs, and that only about 1 or 2% of people actually develop an addiction. But I feel he mostly listed facts rather than explaining why his evidence proves Harry wrong, which is why I think that Harry's debate was stronger in this aspect. And then the last note I took was another important part of the Toulmin model is the warrant part of the model, and it's the reasoning that connects the evidence to the claim. It's as I was just mentioning. I think that Harry also did this a lot better than Bill did. He explained that if gambling is medically recognized as an addictive product, it should be regulated more like other substances like alcohol use and tobacco use. He also argued that technology has made gambling way more accessible in our lives, and that it's just so much easier to get addicted to gambling when they're right there available on our phones. And I do think that Bill's reasoning for his side of the argument was not as strong, and he kept circling back to the same idea that most people do gamble responsibly, so legalization is still a good thing. But he never really explained why, or pointed out the particular evidence that Harry had and why Harry was wrong. And that, I don't know, I just think that Harry's argument was a lot stronger in that way. He also had a lot of really good, this is another part of the model, but backing. Besides using research and medical organizations, he talked about his own experiences with gambling, and I thought that was a really good and strong part of the argument. But it was also good because I don't think he relied fully on his personal story, and he also, used examples from other people. And I think he just did a really good job in this aspect. But another thing that I also noticed was that he does a really good job with rebuttals. Whenever Bill would say, this wasn't a public health crisis, or argued that it wasn't really a big deal, Harry, challenged him a lot and challenged him well. And he explained why he disagreed, which is very strong. But yeah, with all of this, I do think that Harry was a much stronger debater in this situation just because his arguments did align with the Toulmin model a lot better. He had a clear claim, and he had supportive evidence, and he explained why it mattered, and he backed up, his beliefs, and he countered and used his rebuttals to Bill's arguments really well. I think that Bill did make some really good points, especially about education and consumer responsibility, but I don't think his arguments in this case, especially in this debate, were strong enough to outweigh Harry's. So yeah, because of all of this information and the use of the Toulmin model, I believe that Harry clearly won this debate. Thank you.